Okay, so welcome to training module 2. This is titled Finding What Means. You remember in module 1 we were titled Acknowledging What Is. Um, this is the first book of Bert Helling and our first module. Finding What Means is also a book from Bert Helling. I think it's actually the second one. It's translated from Germany and from German. I'm not quite sure if it's translated into English, so you might not find it as a book. But anyhow, this is gives us the practical work of family constellation, how we apply the methodology we learned from Bert Hellinger in a family constellation setting to find that what heals the family wound. Hmm?
Wie
So
heißen es
ab
auf Deutsch? Wie heißen?
Kerstin, auf Deutsch it is finden, was wirkt.
Bitte?
Finden, was wirkt.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure you find it in German, if they still produce it. I'm not sure about English, though. I haven't seen it in English yet. Maybe in Spanish. Lots of books are translated to Spanish. Doesn't help if you don't speak Spanish, though. Okay, so what's the content of today's teaching content? We are talking about in module 2, we are talking about the powers of words. Yes, please, and thank you. These are our powerful words and the relationship of these words in the orders of love because they have a certain relationship. In part 1, we are talking about the orders of love. We are talking specifically about the word yes. We are talking about the 3 patterns of relationship. We're talking about the dynamics in family systems, and we are also looking in depth at the first of the 3 dynamics in family system, which we call reparations or atonement for my sins. Then we are looking in part 2, which will be tomorrow, at the word please. And we were looking at the second dynamic in family constellations, which we call rather me than you. And then we talk about the morphogenetic field. And we will also talk about family constellation and severe or fatal disease and how we handle that. And in part 3, we are talking about the powerful word thank you. The third dynamic in family constellations with I follow you. We are finally looking at what means with words, gestures, eyes, and movements. So today, the healing power of yes. First of all, as we know, acknowledging what is, acknowledging what is our first part. So of course the last module was orders of love. So now we have acknowledging what is, with this is first book, and I think some of you have it already, which is really, really great and a good start into his teaching. This is not only a book and theory, it's the base of his teaching, yeah? And it's not his teaching, it's the base of every spiritual teaching if you think about it, yeah? So acknowledging what is very, very, very powerful. And we use it in family constellations as a main tool to move the souls and to shift energies. We are talking about the orders of law, of orders of words. We are talking about the specific, the one word yes. We are looking at what are the 3 patterns of relationship, and we are finding out what the dynamics in family systems mean. So finally, we are looking at our first dynamic in depth, and that is called atonement or reparation for my sins. Or sins, it doesn't need to be mine, by the way. Well, we will talk about that. So, first of all, acknowledging what is. Acknowledging what is always at the start of a family constellation. So you know this as an author or when you have an assignment to do. So there is this phenomenon that you are staring at the white sheet of paper or the white screen on your computer and you don't know where to start, right? Hands up who has ever felt that in their life. You never felt that, Rosemary. Fantastic. Coiny. So if you never felt that, then I will explain that to you. You're looking, you want to start with something, but you don't know what is the first word, what is my first sentence, where do I start, right? You have a lot of ideas in your head, and a lot of knowledge, but you don't know how to put it to paper. Or if you want to draw something, a white canvas, and you don't know how to put the first stroke, something like that. And that is the same when you start facilitating family constellation. You have a client, the client is talking, you have all the knowledge from the training, and you have witnessed a lot of family constellation, and you suddenly think, where do I actually start? Right? What is the first step? What am I doing here? And that to let you know what is the first start is acknowledging what is. So when the client said, I have problems with my mother, and you would choose a representative for the client and for the mother, yeah, then you can start as simple as suggesting to the representative of the client to say to the mother, I have problems with you, you know? As simple as that. That is acknowledging what is, right? And that goes further through the whole constellation. Every time when you see a dynamic, when you see an emotion, when you see a movement, when you see eye contact, the first thing you do is you suggest to the representative to say it out loud. Hmm? In powerful words, of course, not in rude words or anything like this. So in powerful words. Fundamental for the movement of the soul is finding what is true. So through acknowledging what is, you find what is true, right? Even even if it's not nice, even the representative is not comfortable to say it, but when you ask them then, is this true? You always get a clear answer, and you have all witnessed it multiple times. You can say it feels true or false. You know that. The morphogenetic field is giving you this information. It is like a natural law. There is no doubt. There's not a little bit truth in it or a little bit falseness. It's like being pregnant. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. And this is the same. A word or a gesture is either true or not true. There is nothing in between. And of course, we always find out that what is true, to acknowledge it, because that is a fundamental movement of a soul to find what is true and to admit it. So just by finding what is true, nothing is actually done. Now, the power comes by saying it out loud. Yeah? This is the power. Just by knowing the truth or seeing the truth or whatever, nothing, the soul is not moving. They need to acknowledge it. They need to admit it. They need to say it out loud. So this is why you have to insist as a family constellator on saying the truth, even if it's hard. So when we have a perpetrator-victim dynamic, and the perpetrator doesn't want to say, often mothers who have aborted a child, but Helling has always suggested to say the truth, short and precise, I killed you. That's the truth, right? And then you suggest to the representative to say that, I killed you, or I murdered you even, depends on. Yeah? And even, of course, they don't want to say it, but when they say it, then you ask them, is it true or not true? And if it's true, they can't, the representative cannot not admit it. They would say, yeah, it's true. It hurts, but it's true, right? And this is important. So these are the steps in a family constellation you cannot jump, yeah, or skip. This is the most important step in every family constellation. And not only once, in every dynamic you see, right? And when the dynamic changes, you start again finding what is true and let them admit it. Yeah? So it's an ongoing process. If it's hard to do for the representative, if it sounds harsh, like I murdered you, yeah, although maybe the mother, like many, many mothers, are in a desperate situation when they abort a child, yeah. But it's still, this is not what we are talking about. We are talking about the truth. Is, you know, that not morally, but for the soul, a murder has been taken place. A killing has been taken place. So if it sounds harsh, or if it's unconventional, that's totally okay. That's what actually has the power. Yeah, it's not rude. It's not. It's not. How can I say? It's not emotionally charged in any way, shape, or form. It's simply the truth in very simple words. Yeah. So, in order to find out what could be true and what needs to be acknowledged, you need to learn to observe a dynamic. You need to learn to observe, and we go through this especially in this module, by the gestures, by the line of sight, by the body language, by the movement of the representatives. You need to learn, and by the feelings they are expressing. You need to observe what could be true, what dynamic could be there. And then you will apply the powerful word to this dynamic. And then you ask, is it true or not true? If you're in doubt, sometimes it's clear. It's so clear you don't need that. But if you're in doubt, or especially when you begin, you ask true or not true, and then they will say true or not true. Hmm? The typical words or sentences to acknowledge what is are: I did this, whatever it is, you need to name it. I see this. I feel this. Yeah. So it could be either the past or the present tense. It depends on the situation. It's preferable to be the present tense, but sometimes it's easier to say the past because this felt more true, especially if it's a long time ago. And this is not only for the client, this is also the same when you have an entanglement and you're finally working your way through the dynamics to find the real perpetrator, yeah, who is not your client. They have to say that to get the souls moving. Was this not in the last? Where was this? I think it was our practice workshop, where I think it was Koini. You were representing somebody who expressed some aggression or something, and then when was it not you? I think the father of somebody. I don't quite remember which concept. And then when, yeah, it was you, eh? And then when you've been asked, does it feel true? Then you said, no, I don't feel like I did anything. Remember? It doesn't feel like I did something. And that is a typical sign for an entanglement, of course, right? So you can either have in your representative the perpetrator who has to admit it, or when they admit it and they say that actually doesn't feel quite true, then you know that's an entanglement. So somebody else has to admit it, right? That's important. There's always two ways in every situation in the family constellation. It could be a direct action or it could be an entanglement with somebody else. And how do you find out? By suggesting to say it and then asking, does it feel true or not? This is how you find out. And there's no other way to find it out otherwise. Because the symptoms, the gestures are the same. So you feel aggression. They might even see I feel aggressive or I feel some violence or feel something. But if they have to admit, I did that, I took your life, I caused you the suffering, and they say that, then they don't resonate with it if it's not true. And they can say that doesn't feel true. And then you know you have to look for an entanglement. Yeah? So this is how you step by step, you find your way through a constellation to find that what really needs mending, what really needs healing. So The orders of love. So the orders of words. So we have an order of love and we have an order of words. First of all, the powerful words we are using is yes, thank you, and please. And they are in relationship to each other, and they are forming a specific order, and the order is following the orders of love. Bert Hellinger has often said that, and I'm sure he has been quoted also in literature to say that he felt he has revolutionized the psychotherapy, because all the years of study and all the work they're doing and all the hours they spend, they can heal every client with 3 words. Yes, thank you, and please. Nothing else is needed. They just need to know whom they have to address it to. Yeah. And that is actually quite true. So you can facilitate a complete family constellation with only the 3 words. Nothing else would be needed. So let's look at the relationships of these words, the sequence, and how we find out what relationship we have in front of us in a family constellation by using these words. So let's go back to the orders of word. No, I think I have a slide for that, so we pick that up later. The sentences of resolution are only reflecting one of these words. So every sentence of resolution that you will learn, that you have seen me, heard me using, that you have said as a representative, if you think about the sentence of resolution, it's either yes, a thank you, or please. Cannot be anything else. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a sentence of resolution. Sometimes we don't want to use only yes, thank you, and please. We want to have a full sentence so that the soul can fully embrace what needs to be said or done. Yeah? Without the confusion, why am I saying yes? I don't know what I'm saying yes to. So you can find a sentence of resolution that is kind of amplifying the power of the word yes. But it is still only a yes in the end. That is the soul saying to the other soul. Yeah. So let's look at the 3 patterns of relationship, and then we see how the words come in there. So first of all, mother and father to child. Mother and father or father in the relationship to the child, there is no please. And there's also no thank you. There is only a yes. Acknowledging what is the relationship means, yes, I love you as you are. Yes, I have given you life. Yes, I have nourished you and cared for you so you can grow up. Yes, I will always be there for you, even if I'm not present. This is all a yes. There's only yes. When a mother or father would say to the child, please, what, just give me an idea. What can you think of? What could that please be? Is there anything you can think of? So we can discuss
stop
it.
doing drugs. Or like, please tidy your room.
Okay, that is, we are very used to these pleases, of course, but this is what we call a polite please. Yeah, this is not a powerful please. You can also say tidy up your room. Don't use drugs. So to put the please in front is, not necessary. But a please, like please, is, as you now know, connecting with somebody else. Please is a connection to somebody else. Is there any connection that the father wants more or the mother more than the yes? Can there be anything else? No, can't. because that's all they do. No, they give life to their children, and then they let them go. Yeah, and they let them use drugs because that if they choose to. Of course, we are not talking about society here. We're talking about a family constellation. Hmm? Yeah. So that is the difference. So they can only say, yes, you have your own life. I gave you life, but now it's up to you. That's yours. It's all yours. When a mother or father says please to the child, what does they become? They become the child. They make themselves small, and the child becomes big. That is a breach of the orders of love. Right? Which order? 1, 2, or 3?
The order of precedence.
Yes, thank you, Kerstin. 2.
Thank you. Okay.
Very good. So you can see if a father wants to say to the child, please, you have a breach of the second order of love. And that needs mending in order to let the love flow again, right? So there's an imbalance. Okay, so this is how you can find out, A, what relationship you have, and secondly, if this relationship is intact, on a soul level, of course, or not. And then we have the thank you. Yeah? Would the mother or father say to a child, thank you? And we're not talking about the polite thank you for passing the butter at the dinner table. Or thank you for giving me a birthday gift or something like this. Is there anything you can think of when? And it is good that you can't think of it, because it would be weird to think of it, because there is no thank you, because the father and thank you is dividing, is letting go, and the father and mother, they will always be there for their child. They're not they are letting it go to go their own way, but they are present on a soul level for their child. They let continuously this love that we let flow in uninterrupted movements. This is continuously flowing from the parent to the child. This is not stopping. It's not just a one-off in a family constellation. That's a permanent stream that is permanently nourishing us once it's open, like a dam that opens up, and then the stream flows continuously. So there is no thank you from a mother to a child, or from a father to a child. On the other hand, when we have a family constellation where somebody feels this urge, this deep urge, the representative, of course, this urge to say to somebody else, please, yeah, then we know that we are, let's say, in 90% of all cases, looking at the child-parent relationship. So this is how we find out what kind of relationship we have in front of us. If one representative says, yes, I can say yes, but I cannot say anything else, then we know that there's a parent relationship to a child. No? So this is a brilliant way to find out what relationship is in front of you. So you use these words also to fill out your blank canvas, to know what you are working there, for example. Yeah. So the child to the mother and father, of course, now has all 3 words. It starts with a please, like we start with every interrupted movement. Always a please, because the child, first of all, has to receive and has to bound with the parent to survive, to get the nourishment from the parents, and to get everything they need. So the please is always the first word that a child has to say to the mother and the father. Then, if this stream of love flows, and it's flowing continuously, then they can say thank you. This thank you is giving them the freedom to leave their parents and grow up and do their own life and create their own life, do their own thing. This is important for a child. This is what children are supposed to do. Yeah. If they are not growing up, if they cannot say thank you, they haven't said please before, or they haven't said it enough. Yeah. And when they haven't said enough please, and they cannot say the thank you to their parents for what they have received, then also relationships are not like fulfilled. Relationships are not possible for these children, who are adults, of course. And it was either Bert or Sophie Hellinger said, I think it was Sophie Hellinger, she said in a workshop, if you can't say thank you, and I don't care how old you are, you can be 60 to your parents, right? Because you can say, please, you have to leave your partner and go back to your parents and look after your parents. Yeah? You are not grown up yet. You can't be a parent yourself. Of course, a lot of people do, and then it all goes to custard through the generations because the order is not there. And without the order, the strength is not there. But it can all be balanced in the family constellation back 7 generations, so that's good news. And then, of course, when the child has been able to say thank you, like from, the soul level of the thank you from the bottom of the heart, and they are open to create their own relationship and have their own children, then at the end, especially when the parents start to dwindle and pass away, they be able to say, yes, I acknowledge what is, yeah, yes, I acknowledge this is the way of life. They came first and they leave first. Yeah. Or the yes to a parent who's going their own way. For example, even adult children in their 40s have a problem when one of the parents is marrying again. For example, they have a problem with that. Well, that's not their business, of course, right? But they can only acknowledge that mother and father have their own lives as well and can do whatever they want to when they are able to say a deep, heartfelt yes to the parent. Yeah. So these are the orders of words. And in the relationship, child to mother, father, the order is always please, thank you, and yes. It cannot go the other way. Yeah. Now we have the third relationship. When you remember when I talk about the stream, we have either a stream that means parents are here, came first, order of precedence, children are here, they came last, so the love flows from parents to children. Or you have the other way around, that you're looking from the perspective of the child. The child is here, the parents are here, looking up, yeah? And then there is a yes, please, thank you. And then you have the lake situation, flat waters, yeah, which we call the partnership relation. It doesn't need to be romantic. It could be any kind of equal relationship, not mother-father relationship or ancestral relationships. Of course, there's an order of precedence. Wherever we don't have an order of precedence, we call it partners. And here is the yes the first word. Why is that? What do you think? Give me your thoughts.
Because I should be coming in as equal.
Yes. So there cannot be a please and there cannot be a thank you, right? Very good. That's very simple. And through the yes, you're acknowledging your relationship with somebody. In countless relationships I have seen in family constellations, in partner relationships, at least one cannot say yes to the other. So if one cannot say yes to the other, the partnership is already over or has not started yet, right? Because without and this is, you can remember that when you think of the wedding ceremonies in most cultures, you have to say yes to each other. And this is how you can memorize it. The yes comes first. That is what comes first. Now, after the yes, remember when we talked about the relationships, how to make a relationship improve through love is to give more and more, a little bit more each one to the other, right? And if you want to get out of a relationship, you give less and less and less and less and less, right? This is either up, 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 or down, 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 right? To balance that out, up, 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 down, down, down. So when you have a please, you want to go up. No, you want to improve, you want to add to the relationship, you want to connect more, you want to relate more. Please is always relating. Please is always getting something, want to receive something, meaning you want to bound to somebody, you want to be bound to somebody, that's the please, right? And that is important. So you want to please, you want to ask your partner to give you something, if you will. Yeah, please give me your time so we can do things together. That's a common demand or a common wish in partnerships. Do things together, or whatever you can think of. Yeah. So every please is connecting more, gives the relationship more depth. Yeah. But then normally that is like the German sausage. What has a beginning has an end. And when there was a beginning to a relationship, then there will be an end to it, inevitably, right? This is not infinitely. Although some romantic impressions through songwriters and authors and movies and books and all gives you the impression that it would last forever. But that's only because the story ends when they are happy. They don't tell the next 40 years that, comes. So some relationships end with the death of a partner, but a lot of relationships end before. And that's a natural cycle. There's nothing wrong with it. So we have a word for that. We have thank you. Because thank you allows us to cut the cords, to walk away, to start something new, to balance out everything that hasn't been balanced before. Whatever, let's say, whatever you have a partner and you feel it's over, whatever you have received, and it can only be over when you are able to say from the bottom of your heart, thank you, and you can acknowledge everything that you have received from your partner that hasn't been quite balanced out yet, and everything else, kind of the balance, will be equalized when you say thank you in a family constellation. And in real life, of course. And then with this thank you, you will feel a relief and you are open to turn around and walk away. That's what you see in family constellations. So remember, partner to partner, yes, please, thank you. Child to a parent, please, thank you, and yes. And mother to child only, yes. And that is something you need to learn, of course. So you don't make any mistakes in the family constellation and you know with whom and what you are working. So let's look at the sentences of resolution. So when we say sentences of resolution, remember it could always be expressed either as a yes, a please, or a thank you. Otherwise, it's not a sentence of resolution. You might add some sentences to clarify or, to fill in some. You can do that sparingly in a family constellation or to inquire, yeah. But then a sentence of resolution is what finally moves the soul, is either a yes, a please, or a thank you. Only packed in with a few more words. That's all. and everything else is not called a sentence of resolution. It could be an inquiry, or you can try things out in a family constellation. That's all possible, but the solution or the resolution doesn't come from it. So first of all, these sentences of resolution, they are coming from the field, from the morphogenetic field. It is one of these powerful sentences that that the family soul wants to use. Yeah. So it's nothing that we think up hard. It comes quite naturally. It does not come from the mind. Remember that. So while we're talking about gestures in this module, I'm not sure if you know that, but you might know that. What is if you talk to somebody and they do with their eye movement like this? What does that mean? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know which direction, but the left side up, I think it's they are telling the truth, and the right side up, they are lying or making up a story.
I haven't heard that one before. That's interesting, Kerstin. What do you say, Courtney?
They're trying to figure out some logical response.
Yes. They think. They literally try to think about what they want to say. Yeah, that's true. So I'm not sure about the left and right side, Kerstin. You might be right. I don't want to say anything. I have never heard about it.
But I think that comes from NLP.
From NLP.
From
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if they, either way, if they look up, they're thinking about it. Yeah. So, facilitator who is facilitating a family constellation will never look up. Yeah. Just, you might observe that. Because you shouldn't be in your mind at all. And when you do that and you trap yourself doing that, or observe yourself doing that, just correct yourself and look down. The information comes from down. You look down, or you look straight ahead, but not up. Yeah. And this is how you connect with the field. You can also close your eyes briefly to connect with the field. If you close your eyes for too long, you are going in your own field. Don't forget that. Yeah. They are always concerned with either reconciliation, these sentences of resolution, that is the flow of love, or honor and respect. Yeah, there is only this two. It's like, again, like the pregnancy. There's nothing in between. Yeah. So reconciliation or honor and respect. So these, remember when I said in the practice workshop, don't use don'ts. Because they are no sentence of resolution. They are not they are not letting the love flow, nor do they honor and respect somebody. Yeah. These don'ts have no meaning. You can briefly maybe use a negative sentence to inquire into something, to find for yourself if you're on the right track, you know. Possible, but it's not a sentence of resolution, of course. And we want to stick as close as possible to the sentences of resolution to move the souls forward. Otherwise, we might getting around in circles and wasting a lot of time, you know, and energy with inquiring into something that is not important. So, reconciliation or honor and respect. When I call you in the night and I wake you up and I ask, what are the sentences of resolution concerned with? I want you to say reconciliation or honor and respect. Okay? Like that. So you can write it on your mirror when you're brushing your teeth. You can, or pin it to your fridge when you open your fridge frequently, or pin it over your stove when you cook a lot, so you see it all the time. Or you have a screensaver that says that on your device. And you can always check is what you're suggesting in the family constellation. Is this concerned with reconciliation, flow of love, or honor and respect? Yeah. The sentences of resolution are very simple. We do not need to be intellectual. We do not need to have a study to use them. But they are the opposite. Are not. They are not leisure. What do you say? Leisure words in English. They are not slang. They are not. Charlotte, help me. What do you say in English?
Like we'd say they're not informal. They're not
Thank
slang
you.
words. They're not
They are
colloquialisms.
Aha, I like that. Colloquialism?
Colloquialism.
Colloquialism.
Yeah,
So,
that's it.
no, nice. So, yep, so they are, let's say, formal. They are strong. They use strong words. They are to the point. They are simple. And that's it. Yeah. Like, I did that. I see that. I feel that. I know that. Things like that. So this acknowledging what is, of course, a sentence of resolution. I see that is a sentence of resolution. I see you is a sentence of resolution. What is it? Is it a yes, a please, or a thank you? I see you. What do you think?
Yes.
Yes. It's a yes. It's just acknowledging what is. Acknowledging what is always a yes. So they speak directly to the soul. So we are not thinking about a sense of what is very clever. What can I say here very clever? They are speaking directly from the soul to the soul, and they are coming from the field. They are either true, reflecting the energy as it is, or not true. If they are not true, you don't worry about the suggestion you had for your representative. That's history already. In the moment they said it doesn't feel true, you find a sentence that is true, often exactly the opposite. So back to this example where Connie was representing the father. If you suggest to say, I did that, and then the representative said, that doesn't feel right. I can say it, but it doesn't feel right. Then, what do? You just suggest the opposite. Yeah? Somebody else did it. Preferable to I did not do it, of course, right? We want to, finding the finding the not the positive in it, a positive way to say it, not a negative way to say it. But you can also say I didn't do it, but then somebody else did it is more precise. Yeah. Yes, Connie?
Oh, yeah. Would there be any instances where the representative misinterpret the feelings? I mean, actually they did it, but we didn't feel the feelings correctly.
I'm not quite sure if I got your question. Can you repeat?
Meaning to say, in actual fact, the one that the representative is representing, they did it.
Yeah.
They did the action, but just the rep did not feel the feelings correctly, so that then they say, oh, it's not true.
That doesn't happen.
It won't happen.
No. That doesn't happen. You would wonder how precisely a representative, even if they do it for the first time, and in the last workshop, remember in this workshop where we had 20 people, there were probably, I don't know, half of them knew more or less to family constellation, or a little bit less than half. And they were all representing, and they could just, precisely say what they see, feel, hear, want to say, what is true, what's not true. So it's really, really, you can trust your representatives.
Or is it the soul they're trying to deny it? I mean, does that happen?
No, not if they are representing. If they are, so this is all. Now we come to that. What is how to facilitate in a way that they are connecting with the field. of course, I understand your question, because if you allow another energy than the morphogenetic field, like a group dynamic, for example, to take over, then this can happen. But this is not a constellation. This is kind of a group happening. Yeah, maybe a role play or something. Yeah. But if they are in a constellation and they are connecting with the morphogenetic field and you are guiding as a facilitator them to do so, then they can precisely say true or not true. Yeah.
So that means it is a lot to do with how do we conduct the section.
Yes, how you
Except what
facilitate has a lot to do with it. Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Kerstin.
So what do you mean by a group dynamic is taking over?
Well, we go through that, I think, in module 3.
Ah, okay.
I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's module 3. So you have to be patient. I cannot teach everything at once. Unfortunately. So it would be the opposite. You just remember that. Again, simple steps, one step after the other. You know, you suggest something, they say it doesn't feel true, suggest to say the opposite. If they say, oh, it doesn't feel true neither, then you might assuming a different dynamic than what it is. So you just find another word. If you started with yes, and it says that doesn't feel true, doesn't feel, and then a no is the opposite, you know, kind of can't do that. So if you have a please and they say it doesn't feel true, and then you suggest and say thank you, and that doesn't feel true neither, then it can only be a yes. So instead of having like a order of precedence, you know, the flowing river, you might have the lake situation and you didn't see it right away. That's fine. So this is how you find out. So all these answers so when you're starting, it is hard to trust the representatives. I get you, Courtney. I mean, I remember that 15 years ago. It's really a challenge to trust your representatives, but you have no other choice. I can tell you, there is no other choice. You can only trust them. Well, you're actually not trusting them as a person. You're trusting the field, the morphogenetic field, to be at work. Yeah. And then you go with what they say. And of course, especially when you start, you have these notorious talkers in the family constellation who wants to talk. And but you learn that you have to stop that, because this will lead you astray. As more they talk, as more they go in their head or in their emotions, and they go out of the morphic field. So this talking is not coming from the field. Remember, they are very simple, the sentences we get from the field. They are not talkative. This is, you know. So you have to stop this every attempt as soon as you discover it. Kerstin.
Yeah, I just wanted to say with this talking, this is really, it needs to be stopped right from the beginning, because I was in a workshop recently, and the guy that wanted to constellate, he talked so much, and then I was chosen as a representative, and I really struggled to get to get into the morphogenetic field and stay there and not being burdened by what he just said far too much. So this is really the main, I've experienced it, and was so hard to fill the representative space with ignoring then what has been said before. It was really hard.
Yeah, very good. That is a very common observation, Kerstin. Rosemarie, you want to say something?
Yeah, in a way, Kirsten already said it, but also in a way, if the person talks while he is representing, so in a way, when is he not connected to the field from beginning on? Or does it get worse? The more he talks, the less he is connected.
Yeah. Definitely. So the more, but if you have a client talking, and your experience over years and years and years, your experience, you can let them talk. What happens is it goes in and out, in and out. You just, because some they just need to empty their heart out because they probably do it for the first time. Who knows? Yeah. But this is like as if it has never happened. And then you said, okay, now let's start. What is it about? Is it your heart? Is it, what do you feel? And no stories anymore, no? And then you start with the festival. So this talking is not part of the constellation, and that works with experience.
I've seen constellations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen constellations where they give you a bit of time to talk at the beginning, and actually it's very, like you said, very cathartic for people. And when you were representing, you weren't really picking up on it too much. When you've represented enough times, you weren't really like hanging on to people's stories. Like you did get into it. It was just a different way of doing it.
Yeah. But what is a real problem is if a representative starts to talk in a constellation.
Yeah. That's
a
awful.
problem. Yeah, that's awful. Because they are getting out of their connection to the field, and then they are getting really excited. They are feeling like they have a stage. They are feeling they have, and this is all stuff kind of. So you have to stop that. You have to, if they are not saying simple sentences that have meaning and that is, talking directly to the soul, they stop them, right? And if worse comes to worse, you just let them sit down again. Choose somebody else. That's fine. Of course you can do that. Yeah. Especially when you begin, you don't need to bother with that. And later on, this will not happen to you anyhow. So there's really no wrong way to do it. If you bear in mind that the facilitator is the one who sets the tone. Yeah. That's important. So we are using the sentences of resolution that you also hear me saying. It's always the same. I have them from Bert and Sophie Hellinger. I don't make my own. They are very powerful, and I use them literally, and you should too. You don't need to make up your own. Yeah, this is not a contest in creativity. Yeah, nobody gets points for that. No originality in that. Of course, in time you will have your own style, and you will, put it a little bit differently, but the essence is the same. Yeah, and it's very, 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 very recommended to start with the literal words and sentences that you learn here and that you hear me saying. Yeah. So as you now know, not only the words, the powerful words, but also the sentences of resolution depend on the relationship, of course. Now you have two ways. Either you know the relationship, so you have tested this already, you know what you have in front of you, mother, father, father, mother, or ancestors. If I say father, it could be an ancestor. Oh, by the way, what is perpetrator and victim? What kind of relationship? I wondered. Nobody asked me that,
It's a yes one.
Yes, very good. It's this lake situation, right? They're equal. Although the one is more powerful and took somebody else's life, and we always think maybe the perpetrator is something more powerful, like a parent, and the victim is small, like a child, but that's not the case. They are equal. So there is only a yes. The healing is only yes that both can say to each other. No? So, what are the sentences of resolution when you apply yes? For example, I take this life with everything it entails. That's a yes. I take this life even at the cost of yours in an entanglement. Right? It's a powerful acknowledging what is. Because most entanglers, the entanglee says this, most entanglers say, ooh, I don't want them to say that. And that is when their soul is moved, when the ice is breaking, with this simple sentence of resolution.
Sorry, can I just ask, who is saying what to who? So like with the first one, what does that actually mean?
I take this life with everything it entails. So for example, yeah, you go, Charlotte.
No, I was going to say, like, who's saying that to who?
Oh, that happens often. That is a simple, like for example, let's say a victim, yeah? A victim is often perceived as somebody who needs to be, who has a disadvantage, who has a hard life, who has a, you know, who needs something extra. But no, as a victim in a family constellation, you need to acknowledge that you have this life. It is your destiny. I take this life with everything it entails, right? Even if I become a victim.
Take. So when you're
take
using
is
the
a
word
powerful
take,
word.
mean,
this is why I want you to learn
like
it. You don't need to think about it.
Does it mean like I accept? Or is it actively? Because take is an active word, right?
Yeah, it could be
So
very active.
About,
as more active, as better.
So is it more than accepting?
Yeah, accepting is not powerful, not as powerful as take. Yeah. So, in German, for example, it says, ich nehme dieses Leben mit allem, was es beinhaltet. Ja? Da hat Helling gesagt, nicht ich akzeptiere dieses Leben. That has no power. That is accepting has no power. Kerstin?
I just think Charlotte meant if she wanted to understand if it could stand for accept, because if we say, I take this life, it could also mean that you kill someone. Is that what you meant, Charlotte? Yeah, to clarify that. It's just as an...
Elias, I killed someone. No. Then we would say, I killed somebody. I killed you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we use, like, I take this life would mean, like, I'm taking your life. I'm killing you. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not what it means. It doesn't say kill. When we say kill, we say kill. Right? So how would you translate it then? What other, if it's not accepting, what other word is in English appropriate for taking?
So given what you said about proactively seizing your own life, I think it's more about this life. I own my life. Maybe own?
I own, okay, I'll make a note. That maybe sounds good. Let me write that down.
I own this life.
Or what else?
I receive. That's passive still.
Passive, yeah. Any other? Kerstin, Rosemary?
I would have said I take on this life. Or
I take on.
Or take up this life.
Or live. I live this life.
Yeah, I live this life. I live this life. It's a little bit more active than... Huh?
I choose this life. Because choose is active.
Yeah, that's true. But if you think about destiny, that might not resonate with every soul.
What about I fill this life?
I fill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that too. Let's see. I fill this life. I have to see how it actually feels in a constellation. I fill. Or you could say I take my life. Well, that's not suicide, isn't it?
That's suicide, yeah.
Okay. And what is about I take life? Without this, I take life?
I take life. You wouldn't really say that.
No.
You take life by something, like by the scruff of its neck or by the horns of the bull. You know, you wouldn't say I take life.
Okay. So I own Maybe
for
it's
this
own
life?
is the best. I own this life.
Another
I-
one. I take on this life with everything it entails. I
Okay.
take on this
I
life,
take
even
Yeah.
I
I take
take on
on
this
life,
life.
even at the cost of yours.
Yeah. Is that Charlotte approved?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Very good. All right. I will change that. I hope I remember that in the next constellation. These are the problems when, you have to translate from German to English, obviously.
Mm.
Okay.
Hold on.
So another sentence of resolution is, yes, sentence of resolution is, it's my death and my fate. That is, of course, when somebody is died. It's my death and my fate, and I alone carry it. Yeah, it's very powerful. So when you have a victim-perpetrator situation and the victim is finally at peace, with the situation, with the perpetrator, then that is powerful for the victim to acknowledge the yes to the perpetrator by saying, it's my death and my fate, and I alone carry it. It's not your burden anymore, to the perpetrator. Yeah. By leaving it to me, you are honoring my life and fate. That is also a sentence that is said the entangler, after the entanglement has been lifted, right? Because often the entangler is obviously dead, is the multiple generations before the entanglee, and the resolution is here that the entangler and maybe it was a victim and the perpetrator find peace and let go the descendant. Yeah, and that will then be a strong sentence of resolution. So and then there are many more of you, but there are not many more actually. I mean, you can work with these and a few more, and that's basically it. Then we are talking about the dynamics when not to apply yes, right? Because this is the same, right? If you apply yes in the right way, at the right time, from the right representatives, then it has a strong impact. But it equally has a strong impact if you apply yes when it is not appropriate, right? Because you're kind of cutting off the movement of the souls. Yeah. So when a relationship or a movement needs to be acknowledged, remember that? Yes, is what you apply. When an unbalance or entanglement is still observed, you cannot apply yes, right? Because even if the representatives are able to say it, in the best case, it has no impact, yeah? But it will also drain the energy a little bit away from the constellation. How to apply yes? So, acknowledging what is when we apply yes. When we want a representative to move forward, with a yes, you normally can move forward in the direction of the energy, in the direction you want to go. You might know this little energetic test. People who are, who use self-healing methods. For example, if they have an allergy to food, they use it a lot. Have you heard about that? When you're in a supermarket or a grocery, you shop on the market, and you don't know whether food is good for you or not. You just put it in front of your heart center, and then you wait. And when your body slightly sways backwards, it's not good for you. And when your body slightly moves forward, it's good for you. It's like kinesiology, like a muscle test. So from this little experiment, which you can do anytime with people, with food from your fridge or in the grocery or whatever, you can do that anytime. You can find it out for yourself. So a forward movement is always something that you can agree to, makes you move forward. So in the family constellation, it's the same. Yeah, it is appropriate to apply it if the movement wants to go forward, then you can support this forward movement. The yes is also a great tool to get support of the parent or the ancestor, but remember, of the parent only when before there was a please and thank you. Yeah? So the yes comes last. However, to the ancestors, you can always getting support if you say if you let so it could be either please, could be to the parents and the ancestor, or to the ancestor, or in a later stage in the relationship with the parents, it could be also a yes that moves it forward, and you will get support from the ancestors. Important is a yes in the beginning of a relationship, as we discussed. Only remember this ceremony in church where you say yes to each other. And then we look at when not to apply yes. So when would that be? So very important and most often is when a child is still in need for love. Yeah, there's only the please. And it might is boring, and you might have a client who has had the mother consolated 3 times already and still has to say please. Yeah, we cannot skip the step. Yeah. The yes is not there when they still need love from the parents. Remember, the emphasis is here on the word need. If they are needy, they get the love anyhow. That's not the point, yeah. But they feel the need of love, meaning they haven't received it yet fully. When a victim cannot look at a perpetrator, that's the next very, very common situation to apply yes. Remember, we're not making the representative say something to apply voodoo or magic fairy dust. So, to turn things around. We can only apply that what is true. So the soul can move step by step towards healing. When a victim cannot look at the perpetrator, they cannot acknowledge the perpetrator. They cannot yet acknowledge that that was their destiny and that they are the same and they belong together and all of this. They cannot acknowledge that. So don't ask the victim to say, can you say to your perpetrator yes, if they are not looking at the perpetrator, obviously. You can ask them if they can look at the perpetrator. Yeah, that's a different thing. You can ask, can you look at the perpetrator? And then they would say yes or no. And when they can't look at the perpetrator, then you need to work at another end. You work your way towards the dynamic from another angle. The yes towards parents is, I honor and respect you as my parents, of course, right? So that's the first thing. And you will see if there's an interrupted movement, as often, they cannot say that because they first have to say please and then thank you and then yes. So if they can say I honor and respect you as my parents, they already have been through all kinds of childhood traumas, have been grown up, and are ready, ready to be adult and go their own way. The yes towards the parents is also you are the big one and I'm the small one. Remember how often we say that, yeah? That's just acknowledging what is. That's the only meaning of this. Or you gave me life. My life came through you. Without you, I'm nothing. That is a yes. But not a yes in the means of the end of the relationship, the neediness and the relationship of the parent. That is just simply acknowledging what it is. You only need that. And I should probably say, in this case, the yes comes first. That's probably a good point. I'd never thought of that. Before the please, in a way that you move the children towards the please, towards the acknowledging that they are needy. Yeah? So in a way, the please I need your love is also an acknowledging what is, if you will, right? You're acknowledging that you need the love, but it's a please that is moving the soul, right? So we don't want to over-intellectualize this here, but this is, you are the big one and I'm the small one. It's an important acknowledging in a parent relationship and at the start of it. I honor you and your life journey soul purpose is a very powerful yes towards an entangler or towards an entanglee or towards a victim or even towards a perpetrator. Yeah. What goes on between you two, the two of you, has nothing to do with me, is a powerful yes of a child towards the parents that is not needy anymore. And that's the right yes. Now we're coming to the yes that the child can say wholeheartedly, because if they still have the urge to tell a parent what to do, they are not grown up. Yeah. But if they can let them go and be who they want to be, the parents, and can say that, and it is true, then you know there is no interrupted movement, there is no childhood trauma, there is no problem with growing up and becoming, responsible for their lives. They have quasi made it through, this development. I acknowledge the love between you and am not in a place to judge that. It's also yes towards the parents, because of course children are witnessing oft relationships and the parents that are frightening or that are, not very loving or nourishing. But still, the parents are together for a certain purpose, and there will be a certain love there. Yeah. Or if they are separated, yeah, there is still love in place. There's love bound by the children, for example, love to their children. So this is a yes towards the parents. That is also a powerful sentence of resolution to get the child into their rightful place. The one who came after the parents has not the right to judge what they are doing, who they are choosing, how they behave to each other, whom they are loving or not loving. It's all not the business of the child. The yes towards the parents is also something you all use a lot. If a child has a severe interrupted movement towards the parents, is the without you I won't exist. So in an interrupted movement, you see very often the child cannot say, please, I need you at all. It's just not possible. And so first of all has to be then acknowledged what is really true. And no child can deny that it won't exist without the parent, right? So that's a good start. No. You gave me life is just another way to say it. Or you can find something in your own words that would acknowledge that the child is lives depend on the parent's life. So from the parents towards the children is I give you my blessings on your way. That's a lovely yes. Or you are free to do whatever you want to do. Or my love will always be with you. That's all the yes. I will always look at you with love. Or I'm here when you need me. Or something else that feels powerful. And what feels powerful is mainly something that you experience in a family constellation. As I say, it's really hard to think these sentences up if you don't have this feeling for what has power and what has less power or no power, yeah? But in a family constellation situation, you can clearly feel it, what is powerful and what is not powerful. So we are coming to our exercise today. So how do we do that? Okay, so I would like you, yeah, that's perfect. No, it's not perfect. We are 5. So I will go in with one of you. Or actually, we can do a group of 3 and a group of 2. That doesn't matter really in this exercise. So what we do is, group of 2 or group of 3. One is a child and the other is representing a parent or a child. You don't need to discuss that, you know. You just say, okay, I'm the client and I want you to represent somebody. And you think who that would be, yeah? Either a parent or a child. You can say it, but you don't have to. The Excel is more exciting when you don't say it, because then you can feel, you know, who can rightfully say yes to the other. Yeah, who is the parent? Yeah, that's kind of the exercise. So I want like you to feel it rather than to think about it too much. Yeah. So first of all, you connect. Connie?
Yeah, sorry, but Maya, can you repeat what you say, because you're just breaking. I don't want to screw up the exercise.
You won't, but I say it again. So let's say a group of 2. One is a client and the other is representing either a parent of the child, parent of the child, the client, or a child of the client. So we are talking about the parent-child relationship here. Yeah. If you don't have children, then you might just, you know, choose a parent. Now, in this relationship, the parent says yes, right? Remember what we have learned. The parent says yes to the child, or the child can say yes to the parent if it feels right from the bottom of their heart, because that just means they have worked through the please and the thank you before. Yeah? And I would like you to feel that for yourself, either as a client or as a parent, and you will see this is a very simple exercise, so you don't need to overthink it, Connie. You will feel it. One of you will, after a few minutes, feel the urge to say yes. And that's all I would like you to experience. Yeah? And then you swap. Okay? And then you can think about that later, who that was. Okay? So in this exercise, you focus on when do you feel it's right to say yes. And it can be either the client or the representative. That doesn't matter. It's not that each of you has to say yes. It is just if you feel the urge to say yes or if you don't feel the urge to say yes. That's important, right? You just try it. You will see. It's very simple. Nobody has messed this exercise up before. So don't think that's going to happen. And of course, I've miscalculated. We have a group of 2 by 2, so that's easy. So you connect, you know, you take a breath, you can close your eyes, you connect, you just decide first who's the client and who's the representative. And the client might say, you are my parent, like you are my mother or my father or my child, you know? You can say that for the sake of the exercise. You don't have to, but you can. And then observing the dynamics means that you are just feeling into this relationship. And if you feel for yourself that you want to say yes or not, yeah, that's important. And then you decide for yourself if you want to say yes. And then you say it. And it can take a few minutes. You don't need to rush it. Take your time. And if both say yes, then interesting. Then we see later when we talk about that, what that might mean. And then you swap. Yeah, so after a few minutes, we can swap. We might not need 10 minutes for this exercise. It might be just 3 minutes. Yeah, you have to, no, 6 minutes. 3 minutes each would be enough. Okay? Yeah? Shall we just do it? Okay, very good. And then, of course, then we have to see if it's true or not true. So the one who says yes, so the one who has not said yes has to ask the one who said yes, is this true or is this not true? Yeah? Just to check in, that you know how that resonates, truth. Yeah? Acknowledging what is. Okay, so let's make 2 breakout rooms. I let it assign automatically. Don't know who's in which room. And I can't put the timer on, but I will send you messages after 3 minutes to swap. You got it? Hello, Beck.
Hello.
So, I think we start with Courtney. I see how that was for you.
So we started off with Christine representing my mom. I don't feel the need to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Neither did Christine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have too much emotion, surprisingly. It's quite neutral to me. And then when we swap, Christine didn't want to tell me who I was representing.
Okay.
But I can feel that it is a male energy.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to guess, it would be your father. I'm not too
And
sure.
was there a yes in this second
No.
round? Nobody?
No.
Kerstin? No yes?
I didn't know when I was the client, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to say yes or not. I thought when I was the client. So when I was Connie's mother, I was drawn between a yes and a thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't decide for a yes or a thank you. It was in between. It was always coming and going, yes or thank you or yes.
Interesting, eh, Courtney? Because you're looking after your mother, no?
I can relate to that because I look after my mom.
Yeah, because
financially and probably emotionally.
Yeah, exactly. So Kerstin picked up on
It
that.
Yeah.
And interesting for me was there was no please.
Well, that's good. That's good
Please
to hear.
was not there.
Yeah, very good. Very good resonating. Mm-hmm. Now, in this, you could have tried it because this is a space to try things. You could have tried Kerstin to say yes and see, because this is when then the important of the second half of the exercise is to check if it's true or not.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay, Rosemary and Charlotte, how was you?
Yeah, so I went first, and Rosemary was my mother. And I think it's pretty fair. We did it, and then we discussed afterwards. And I think it was pretty fair to say it was a very strong no, a no all around. No, yes.
For you?
From either side, actually.
From either side.
Yeah, that was quite a hostile experience. Well, yeah. And then Rosemary, do you want to discuss your one?
I was the child and Charlotte was the mother, and it was a long stare. And at the end, in a way, a possible yes, but nothing happened. But in a way, we should have said yes and then asked, is it true or not? But we didn't do that, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it was like possible, but not quite enough action to. On both sides, actually.
Yeah.
It could. It was a hint of it could have been possible, but no one, not active enough to step into it.
But we didn't say yes, and then is it true?
Yeah.
We skipped that side. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you would have known.
Yeah.
You know, but that's good. So now you know how important that's part of the exercise, to understand how important it is to ask your representatives. So this will happen all the time. You suggest to say something and they say, I don't know if I want to say it. Well, what can you do with a representative like this? Nothing. You can do nothing. So you have to insist that they say it, and then ask if it's true or not true. Understand?
And when can I just ask, when you're saying insist that they say it, you mean the phrases, not just say yes?
Well,
The
this is
literal words.
easier to say just the strong words, yes, please, or thank you, than a
So you
phrase.
can use those as well.
Yeah. So if there's
So
some
say to your mother,
resistance,
please.
yeah. If there's a resistance, you really want to only use one of the words, not a sentence. Right. Because it's easier if they say it without knowing where they say it for, so they are out of the mind, if you will, literally. So they are not referring to their mind. That's important. And then you ask, is it true? And then they start. Then 90%, if you have observed the relationship correctly, they are quite surprised and say it actually feels true, and they are surprised themselves. This is what makes a facilitator. Yeah, that you know that and you have experienced it for yourself and you know how to apply it. Okay. Very good.
Are we the first group now that screwed it up?
It is what it is. You know, you all learn from it. Often, this is why there is no mistakes when you're learning. Often, you learn from what you miss or what you not do more than from what you do, what you follow. That because it sticks better somehow in the memory. Yeah. Well, that's all good. And hello, Reem. You missed just the first half. That's all right. But we are now going into our break.
Thank you for letting me in.
Let me in. Let me in. It's
Yes,
cold outside. It's cold outside. So, okay, let's do our 10 minutes break. Okay. Any questions to what we have had so far? Talked about? Reem, where are you now? She vanished. So, any questions to the yes in the relationships we talked about? All good? Okay, right. So let's talk the yes and the part. Yes, Charlotte.
So I've got a really quick question. You know, when we went through and we were talking about, you know, the different patterns of relationships, is sibling to sibling most similar to partner to partner?
Yeah, in general, yes. Although there is an order of precedence. No? So the firstborn is first, but it is not the same as it is. So that's an interesting question, right? And not everything is totally black and white. It is easy to describe it when you learn, when you teach. It's easier to have like only 3 choices, but in truth there is a little bit more to it, of course, right? So siblings, they have an order of precedence. The one who was first conceived, actually, because the not born belong as well, come before the others. But there is not the same flow of love like from the parents to the siblings towards each other. That's not the case. When these order of ranking or precedence comes in or kicks in is when the siblings, not due to their order, doing in the family what they're supposed to do. That is that you feel this unbalance. So I give you an example. The eldest alive child is the one who is in the orders of love. I'm not talking about society here, right? In the orders of love is the one who, if somebody is looking after the parents, the elderly parents, then it would be the oldest, right? And if you think of the former, or takes on the business of the father. And if you think of the former laws even, I know that from Germany, the eldest child is inheriting like the farm normally, right? And the others are not inheriting. If there's nothing left, nothing. That is kind of that was always the order, right? The order. This is now, of course, now it has to be sold and has to be divided by everything, and this is how the farm splits up, and nobody can take it over, really, right? But that is the order. Interestingly, that's the same order that is following in Bert Hellinger's orders of love. So the oldest sibling is the one who can get everything, but also has the responsibility and can also look after the parents if they need help. It is not in order if the youngest does this. However, as always, this is not how life plays out, right? So what happens, for example, if the oldest decides he wants to go to America and, you know, just completely turn away from the family and do their own thing? Can he not do that? Of course he can do that. Right? Now this is the difference to the law. This is just the soul movement. That of course he can do that. But what is when now the second son or the second daughter takes over whatever the business of the parents and maybe looks after the elderly parents? There is an imbalance between the siblings now. Right? Because the second one is not in the right place to do that. And they will feel that. There will be suffering. And if there's no suffering between the siblings, then one of their children will pick that up. And then we have a family constellation, you know? And then this could be also in the 7th generation back happened. So the order here is, or that what means is, that the order is acknowledged. So in a family constellation, the younger son or the younger sibling would say to the older sibling, I do that for you. Yeah? So it's acknowledged that it is not his role. So they would say, I do that for you. And the elder would say, thank you. Simply thank you. It's balancing that imbalance out. Yeah. But if it's not acknowledged, if nobody talks to each other, right, this is a typical imbalance situation where somebody is suffering a disease or an illness or an allergy or no luck in partnerships or no success in a job or something, you know, all these kind of issues that come. Yeah, if this has happened before. And they are entangled with that. So there is, yes, Charlotte, there is an order of precedence in the children, but it's quite specific, yeah? So it's not the same as parent and child. For example, if the youngest says, I'm doing what I want to do, you know, I just go to the other side of the world and do my thing there, even though the parents might be disappointed or the elderly brother is grumpy about it because why is he free and I'm not? That is not an imbalance. He can do that. You know? He's allowed to do that. So no descendant will suffer because of that. Yeah? And therefore we will never have a family constellation with it. Yeah? So we only see in a family constellation imbalance, obviously, where we need to find what mends. And this is what mends in the sibling relationship. But that is also the only one I can think of that I have ever seen. Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk about the partnership. The yes in the partnership at the beginning would be like a sentence of resolution would be, I'm now free to be with you, especially when they had balanced out a former relationship, which is often the culprit to a fulfilled new relationship. So when this hasn't been ended well, because there's an imbalance left, then the partner cannot say yes to the new partner. First balance, then the new partnership. But when this has been accomplished with the help of a family constellation, that would be, I'm now free to be with you. Or, I see you and you love. If you have one partner, that's often the case in relationships, one partner that can say yes, and the other like full-hearted, and the other not quite, or not quite yet, yeah? Then, if you suggest to the representative to say, I see you and your love, acknowledging what is. They don't need to say, I love you when it's not true, obviously, yeah? But they can say that what is true, and that is, I see your love. I see you and your love for me, right? So that's another yes. You always have to find that what they can say and what is true to move the souls. You cannot be fulfilled or content as a facilitator when you have a relationship constellation and one says yes and the other says no, I can't say yes. That's not when you break up the constellation. Yeah? So you have to find that what he can or she can agree to. And that is often what I call the little sister of the strong words, or the little brother. There is always something they can agree to, and you've got to find that. And they have to, and then there is a small movement possible, and that's when you can break up the constellation. The next one would be, now I'm fully available for you. It's the same as the first sentence. I'm now free to be with you, and just another word. Or what else can we say? And so on. So there would be more sentences, right? Or even in some instances, maybe there was, I was always here for you. You know, you have this kind of, you need to be open to whatever is appropriate and what you see, what is true. So a yes at the end of a partnership is after thank you. So at the partnership is over, it might be necessary to say thank you for one or both partners to balance out whatever hasn't been in balance. Just remember the part 3 of module 1. Whatever hasn't been in balance can be balanced out in a partnership with a thank you, right? So when this has been said, or it wasn't necessary to say, whatever is the case, then a yes at the end of the partnership can say, my love will stay even if I have to leave. Right? This is very often in destiny partnerships where the destiny is fulfilled. So one partner has the urge to leave, but that doesn't change the love they feel for each other, Or I love you, and that what is guiding us. That is a very, very, very strong sentence of resolution that moves mountains, literally. So this this is used by Bert Hellinger over decades. I love you, and that what is guiding us. That what is guiding us, you can call it God or divinity or destiny or whatever. That doesn't matter. You have to leave it open, because if you put a word in there, then they might not relate to it. Yeah. But if you keep it like so abstract and open as Bert Hellinger always does, they can resonate with it. So I love you, and that what is guiding us is a super important sentence of resolution for all kinds of difficult relationships that come to an end. You will always have a place in my heart. It's also one. Kerstin?
Sorry, but back to the last one, when you said, I love you, and that it what is guiding us in destiny relationships to separate after the entanglement is cleared. Where is the entanglement coming in there?
Oh, that is just before, like one of the partners is entangled with somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is cleared.
Okay, cool.
And then they can separate, right? Although they love each other still, but it's just the way, at least for one, is towards somewhere else. So that is a strong sentence. You'll always have a place in my heart. Of course, you ask if that is true, right? Not everybody can say that. At the end of a relationship, often one partner wants to turn away, and that's it, right? So you always say, yep, is that true or not? And then you find that what is true. For example, if somebody cannot say, you have a place in my heart, chances are that they have not probably said thank you yet. There is an unbalance, because you can give everyone a place in your heart, including your ex-partners. Understand? And if there's a specific person you cannot give a place in your heart, then that would, like, alarm bells go off. That's okay. And then you go back to the thank you. And then you suggest, if you suggest, say to your partner, you always have a place in my heart, and they say, I can't say that. No, that's not true. Then you say, okay, then say thank you for everything I have, you have given me. Because there's still the relationship going on. They can't let go. Even if they pretend they want. And they want the opposite. They want to run away. That's also not a good sign. Normally, So just be aware that these are all hints for the facilitator. Where is the imbalance? Finding that what means. Through our children, we always be connected. That's a very true sentence. If they are mutual children, and that is also very strong impact on the relationship. To acknowledge that, at the end. So then we have the yes in relationship to different relationships. So for example, to the ancestors, a yes would be here, I honor you and your death. A very simple yes. Remember our reconciliation, honor and respect. That's all we need to know. I honor you and your death. I give you a place in my heart. That's reconciliation. Or it could also be honor. Yeah. Or we have a relationship to God as well. Sometimes God actually literally appears in the family constellation. It's represented by somebody, especially in a family system that's quite religious and very interesting. Often this is a religious God is obviously not what we are talking here about, and you have to witness it in a family constellation to fully understand what impact this has on the family system. It is always a representative that is another family member, like a dominant family member from maybe way back 7 generations, right? But when we are having like a representative for God, meaning the God of creation, the true God, the divinity, then the appropriate yes would be, I am you and you are me, or now I see you in me, right? To understand that there is no separation. Yeah, that's the yes to to the highest good, or to the highest spiritual God, if you will. And if this is not true, then you have one of these, I call it fake gods there, It could be also a god from the Greek mythology, or just a rangeful forefather, who has been put on a pedestal, or this rangeful person from a church that is dominating the disciples, or a guru or something like that, So a father figure, well, obviously then there is a father problem. So, and yes, in relationship to a victim is, well, we use it a lot, now I see your pain. Right? The perpetrator says to the victim, or the entanglee says to the victim, now I see your pain. That's a clear yes. Acknowledging what is. Obviously, also, we sometimes needed to use it for the perpetrator. So here we say, as a victim to the perpetrator, you belong to me, I belong to you, we are the same. That is a yes. No. Same for the advantage giver. I'm honoring my debt to you. That would be a yes, acknowledging what is. And the disadvantage giver would say, now I see your desperation, right? For losing, or for being taken away, all the wealth or the land or whatever they had, the business, the farm. Okay, let's talk about dynamics in family system. That's not the first time that we actually see. We have talked about that. I use the word a lot, but you might not have really noticed what that means. So now we are going through the dynamics in family constellation, which we are working with. And especially when you're on the practice workshops, you will get a lot out of it, because this is where I explain the dynamics. Normally in a workshop, in an open workshop, I'm not explaining the dynamics to the public, yeah? But this is specifically for the trainees, because that is what you work with, the dynamics. So belonging, conscience, guilt, and destiny, forming 3 basic dynamics in family systems. The one dynamic is atonement for my sins, or let's say atonement for sins, because it doesn't need to be mine. It is felt as mine, right? It does not need to be mine. And this is what we're looking at today, and this is related to the word yes. Then we have the other dynamic, the next dynamic, rather me than you, and that is what we talk about tomorrow. It's related to the word please. And then we have the third dynamic, I follow you, and that is what we look on Sunday at, and that's related to the word thank you. And as you now could see, it's very easy to learn all these stuff, because you only need to count to 3. We have 3 words, we have 3 relationships, we have 3 dynamics, we have 3 orders of love. You see? See the pattern here? So that's really easy. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So all these dynamics are just another word for a breach of the orders of love. And this is why they will come up in the family constellation, because they are causing suffering in the family system. So we have either that, which are often, most likely also combined with an entanglement, or we have trauma from their own lives, which we call interrupted movement, childhood trauma, interrupted movement towards the mother or the father. Well, that's basically what we are working with. Okay, let's look at atonement for my sins and what that is. Atonement for my sins is a dynamic that is a violation of the first order of love, belonging, conscience, and guilt. And the emphasis is here of guilt. And we were looking at it closer, because when we try to understand what are sins, yeah, what is a sin, then we have to think in terms of guilt and ego. So a sin is perceived as something I have done and I shouldn't have been done, and now I feel guilty for it. Yeah. And it is something that you don't do in your family system, you know, the conscience, the group conscience, and therefore causes you this feeling of guilt or shame, and you fear that you can't belong anymore to your family system, because you were breaching kind of their rules that forms the family conscience, right? And all of that is going on in the ego mind. Yeah. So if there wouldn't be an ego mind at work, there wouldn't be any sins, there would be no conscience, and there would be no guilt. Yeah. But it's not. We are conditioned. Remember, when we talked about conscience, we are conditioned. The mind is conditioned to a certain set of rules in the family system. And that is forming the group conscience, and that is forming the ego mind of the participants of this system. And then when they do something they should feel guilty for, then they are forming a sin. And that is also what the church uses, well, I know that from a Christian education, as a punishment, right? Because it says nothing else, that you have sinned, meaning you have violated one of our rules, no? And now you need to atone for it. Yeah. Obviously, that is all made up by the rules, whatever rules that was, yeah? You can take over responsibility. Like, let's say you are driving a car that is not fit for the road. Yeah. And then you have an accident. Let's say you lose a tire and you lose track, and then you drive into a child and the child dies. Yeah. That is tragic, and you need to, take responsibility for the fact that you were driving a car that was unfit and you knew that for this purpose, and you will go to jail for it, or you will have to pay for it, or whatever is, That doesn't mean you must feel guilty, because as we know from family constellation, when you look at the soul movement, there is fate in here. Yeah? And the perpetrator, which would be you who were driving the car, and the victim, the child, they were not by coincidence there in this second. The child could have left the house 10 seconds earlier or later, and it wouldn't have happened. Yeah? Or you could have taken a detour. You can stop at a red light, and it wouldn't have happened. No, it happened. Yeah? And we see in a family constellation that perpetrator and victim belong together, and it does not help the souls to go with the social perception of guilt and shame. Yeah, does not help the souls. That's not meant for them. So, long story short, with this example, it is fabricated, this feeling of guilt or shame, and therefore a sin is mind-born. So in a family constellation, this has to be revealed, that it is not a soul movement. The soul is not sinning, if you will. Yeah? Okay? And this is how you then also understand that sins do not exist outside of the ego mind. Yeah? So they are like a deception of the mind. Yeah, not looking clearly at the world and what's ahead of them. So what is the healing word here? When you see an atonement, like when you see in a family constellation somebody is suffering of guilt and shame. This is normally when you have, you go. What is it for?
Because, sorry, we were asking which word is healing, right?
Yeah.
Because you said atonement for my sins is yes.
Yes.
And tomorrow is please, and the day after is well.
Yes. So you're right. The word is yes. What yes? Yes, I acknowledge my destiny. I don't need to be ashamed. I don't need to feel I have sinned. I acknowledge my destiny. It was my destiny to drive this car in this street and to kill a child. That's the yes is a healing movement for the soul. Yeah. So that is when you apply that, and the healing movement is, now you know that, together with the yes. What is the healing movement? I talked about that in the first half, so you are excused, but everybody else not. What is the movement? The healing movement of yes.
What do you mean by healing movement?
We always have words and movements and gestures and eye contact. So movement is moving. You move your body. Remember when I made this example with the allergy for food? No? All gone? Rosemary?
Back and forward swaying then?
So what is the
You would
healing
move
movement? Forward. Thank you.
forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. Forward is the healing movement, right?
Forward,
What would you just get them to literally walk forward?
Yeah, forward. Yes.
Like together,
No.
away from each other?
Charlotte, I'm not get them to move forward. I use the word yes, and then the healing movement is forward for the souls.
So that's just like for us to know. They don't actually physically move forward.
Physically, this is why you have representatives.
But where do they move to?
To their perpetrator.
Got you.
Or
So
the other
they
way
go
around, the perpetrator to the victim.
towards each other, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yes is a word. The movement is forward.
That would be similar. I'm sorry, that's tomorrow.
Similar to?
But is it similar to like we belong together, the victim perpetrator?
Yeah, that's exactly what
okay.
we're talking about. Yeah. So, atonement for my sins is a dynamic where the one who is suffering is self-harming. Normally. So, they are either suicidal, or they are depressed, or they are giving always away, they never have money, or they suffer because they never have a relationship, or things like that. That makes them like they want atone, yeah, for whatever they have done. Now, remember, we can always have an entanglement. So the one who is suffering, who is suicidal, doesn't need to have to done anything, ever. Yeah, could be simply entangled with the one who done it. Yeah, with another perpetrator. Then you have three people, and we talk about entanglements in greater depth later in this course. But just bear that in mind. Yeah. It is either the one who has done it, or he's entangled, she's entangled with somebody who has done it. But then there would be a history of suicides, of depressions that would have happened before. This is how you find out. Yeah? Because somebody else would feel the same. Maybe lesser, because they're kind of obscuring it, having a big wall around them, but then the descendant who picks it up and is entangled, he would feel it stronger, for example. Yeah. But often it's a repeated pattern of unsuccess or suicides and things like that. So what else do we have? The first dynamic that is leading to diseases, accidents, suicide, and death is atonement for the sins for sins. Let's say it neutral. It could be mine. It's perceived as mine, but it could be also from an entangler. It is either personal guilt or an entanglement, and the deep love for the entangled person who has caused the death of another person is felt as one's own guilt. Now, that's what you see in the family constellation. Atonement is to look at the dead and realize that their destiny, or acknowledge their destiny with love, either oneself or another family system member with whom he is entangled. Remember, the entangler is looking at the victim for the perpetrator. Now, the healing movement is twice. First, the entangled person, entanglee, is moving towards the victim. And second movement towards the victim is then the real perpetrator. And through the second movement only, the first one is released from the duty. Yeah. And you see that all over again in family constellations. Yeah. So just because an entanglee moves towards the victim, that means nothing. That's just the start of the constellation. This movement makes the entangler, the one that came before, the real perpetrator, uncomfortable, and makes them realize that there's something going on they need to attend to. And once they look at the victim, they can connect. And if they then can say yes to the victim, and the victim can say yes to the perpetrator, then the perpetrator can also move towards the victim. And then you will see that naturally the entanglee is leaving, is free. Yeah, that's the healing movement. towards. What else do we have here to say to? That's what I just explained, finding the real victim and let them face each other, realize the entangled person, releases the entangled person from their duty. We talked about what are sins. If the emotion is coming from an ancestor, you can also have another dynamic combined with this. Now this is just a little bit more complex, not more difficult, because once you have learned and observed and worked with all three dynamics, you can see them. So this is why I ask you, after you have finished the first 3 modules in the practice workshop, to tell me when you're facilitating, what dynamic are you working with? Yeah? Because you need to know that. Otherwise, you are fishing in the dark. Yeah. So, what is denied there when we have this dynamic atonement for my sins? Well, I have answered it there already. A relationship with the victim is denied. Right? That's the most often. It could be different. It could be the perpetrator and the victim could be swapped. But normally, the perpetrator is denying a relationship with the victim. Sometimes it's the victim with the perpetrator, but that's the same dynamic. It doesn't change anything. And what needs to be acknowledged here with the word yes, that this so-called sin is forming a lasting relationship, that they belong together. The incident, let's call it, the action that happened here. The eye contact and
usually the person wants to resist and reject it, doesn't it? Like, I don't want to see it happen. I want to leave this, but actually, it's only by totally allowing it in that it can be neutralized.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So the eye contact and the acknowledgement is the healing gesture and the word. So if they can't look, what Charlotte just said, if they can't look at the victim, that's okay to the start of that needs to be acknowledged. That's the start of a family constellation. But then when the dynamic has been, moved on by applying the words in the right order to the right representatives, then the perpetrator would be able to look at the victim. You can suggest any time along the way, ask, can you look at the victim now? Just to give him an idea. Yeah, but you cannot force it and you shouldn't repeat it too often. Just see. Sometimes they just need to switch out of something. Yeah. But they will clearly say, no, I can't look there. Then you got your answer. Or they say, oh, yeah, yeah, I can look a little bit there, So whatever they answer you, whatever the representative says is what you take it from. Then. They can also do something good to honor the victim. So that would be another gesture. That would be good to heal the relationship. They could for example, they could say, I will honor you by let's make another example. Now, let's say that's not an entanglement, because normally victim perpetrator are long dead when you work with them. Let's say it is not an entanglement. It's a direct action of the client towards somebody else. Yeah, that forms the victim-perpetrator relationship. They can move towards each other in a family constellation, and then the one who's still alive can say, I will honor you by donating something to this organization. Or I will honor you by lighting a candle. Or, whatever, a gesture. Just something. So that's also very healing, especially or only if they are not entangled with somebody. So in our example from the driver with the unfit car accident, when in a family constellation they can relate to each other and they can embrace the relationship and say yes to their relationship to each other, then when the client, let's assume it is your client, the driver, you can then say by the end of the constellation, if you want to, you can light a candle for this child in your house and let it burn for 3 months continuously to honor, to honor your relationship with the child. And that's very healing. Or I would not suggest to buy the parent something or something like that, because then you're kind of creating a new relationship, right? So that's not what I'm suggesting. Something they do for themselves, do something, or go to the sea and throw a teddy bear in there, or whatever, you can, whatever comes to you. So that information will come from the field anyhow. Yeah, if this is helpful for the client. So all this will take the suffering away, because when they deny a relationship with the victim, they pay literally with their wealth or health. Yeah. So the client who comes has this suffering because of the relationship is denied with the victim. Either they themselves deny a relationship with the victim out of shame and guilt, or they are entangled with somebody who has denied out of shame and guilt the relationship with the victim. Yeah. And then they pay. This is the atonement. They pay literally with the bad health, with suicidal thoughts, with depression, with you name it, whatever. Yeah, unsuccess in life in lots of ways. So, so when does this the dynamic happens? We have it very often, mother aborting a child. Remember, it does not need to be your own mother. No, I can't say that because the child is dead. It will not be only if you are a mother and you have aborted a child. It's not only you. It can be also that you are entangled with an ancestor, yeah, who has aborted a child, and they're just repeating that out of loyalty to your entangler, right? You always have to look twice. War, crime, accidents, all sorts of things. Wherever this is causing a death of somebody else, can this dynamic occur. What heals is dedication, devotion, and commitment to heal the relationship with the victim. Most often could be the victim to the perpetrator as well. The feeling of guilt, this is what we think, sin. This feeling of guilt is a substitute to avoid going through the pain. That is in acknowledging that I did that. Yeah. And do that what is really needed, connecting with the victim through love. Okay, we have another exercise. So, groups of 3 now. We have at least one group of 3 and one group of 2. That is fine, we can do that. I would like you to discuss now this time, so you can talk. What means guilt, shame, and sins for you, right? Where does it touch you? Where do you might feel it, or you have felt it, or you have observed it, or something like that? When did you feel guilty? Yeah, and why, of course. And I give the groups 10 minutes each. So 10 minutes, so it's a group exercise. So you just talk. You have this 10 minutes. And the purpose of this exercise is to find out on a deep level where you feel maybe some residues of guilt or shame and be able to acknowledge it. Yeah? Be able to acknowledge it while you talk about it. Okay? Yeah? And as always in this group exercise, when you talk, you be respectful. You are practicing active listening. So when somebody's talking, you are not commenting. You're not either commenting with, yes, 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 I know, I know, I know. You are not saying a word until the one who's talking and sharing is finished. Yeah? And then you will practice silent. So you wanted it to sink into the soul level. Yeah? And then you start to share. So this is not about discussing somebody else's guilt. It's just about you opening up and sharing. Yeah? Nobody's commenting on the other here. Okay? Yeah? Understood? Okay. So, let me do that.
Will you tell us when to switch?
There's no switching in this exercise. So you intuitively, yeah. You just share organically. You just share and then you sit in silence and then the next one is talking and maybe then in silence. Then you can share again. You know? I want you to understand that active listening does not mean to comment. Even if you mean it well, even if you say, oh, I have the same. Yeah? It takes away the strength of the sharing, if you will. Yeah? And this is all about the exercise, all about finding out where you feel or felt guilt or shame or a sin, if you will, and being able to talk about, of course, I'm not recording it, this will be completely between yourselves, yeah? And then being able to acknowledge it and saying, through speaking out, yes to it, yeah? And you just see where it leads you. Maybe a little family consolation even, who knows? Okay. Put the recording on. So, how was the exercise for you? I don't want you to share what you have talked about. I just want you to share how you felt about sharing or how you felt about the feeling of guilt or whatever comes to your mind about the topic. Whoever wants to talk.
Shall I go?
Yes.
The hardest part was, I think, Koini was talking and we were both myself and Rosemary trying to stay quiet, as you said. And she's like, do you understand? Like, are you there? I'm like, we were told not to say anything.
Yeah, very good. That's an interesting comment.
You're used to like at least saying yeah, like giving some feedback that you're actively listening and you know what they're talking about. So actually sitting there and just like letting her go off and like she's like, hey, look at you're not frozen, we're here.
That's very interesting remark.
I mean, isn't it?
Say it again.
Oh no, you discuss, you talk. She was saying we're supposed to discuss. So she thought we were supposed to discuss together, as in like having a discussion, like talking back and forth. But from my understanding from your instruction is like discuss. It's like we talk, but the others listen while we're talking, not talk back to us.
Yeah.
Well, so we shared our perspectives on guilt and shame, and Rosemary shared quite a fair bit.
I don't think you feel guilty or shame.
Just about shame. Last week I went to see a friend, and on the way to my friend, I had to sneeze, and I wetted myself so badly. I had to turn around to the next shop and buy new pants and underwear. And then I was late to see my friend. So in a way, I didn't go there and say, oh yeah, that was so tough. I said, do you know what? And I told her, and we just killed ourselves with laughter. Yeah.
There was another, and then there was another trip to buy some more trousers and pants.
Well, I like
I was
that one.
waiting to hear that.
So you wanted to share, Rosemary, that you do not know what the feeling of shame is.
No,
Yeah.
no. And you see, all these feelings we burden onto someone. We have this guilt or whatever, and it makes the other one really awkward.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are just open and say, whatever, like me, yes,
That's a healing
Yeah.
movement, acknowledging what is.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all you need to
acknowledging it
know.
acknowledging it before it turns into shame, because you don't want to, you're festering on it. We had a different kind of conversation. Like, I deal with guilt and shame. I haven't ever done anything so bad to someone. Like, I've never killed anyone, so I don't have like super deep, long-lasting guilt. The guilt and shame that I've felt has probably been tiny, tiny micro events, but towards myself mostly. I feel shameful about the things I've done to myself, not really to other people, but just the way that I've mistreated myself or conducted myself. Not like huge events, just tiny things. I couldn't even remember any, but I know they're there, like in past relationships or when I was younger. But I've realized these days that it's mostly just mistakes I've made, or where I haven't been perfect. I've just beat myself up. And yeah, so never like anything massive for me, just like these small things that weren't really reason to be guilty. They were just little mistakes, really. I could have done it better, but oh well, And these days I don't tend to feel guilty about stuff, because like Rosemary, well, fresh stuff, I try and just release it straight away, acknowledge it and say something so that it doesn't fester. But yeah, I could only really remember sort of small things from my past, and it was mostly about the ways that I've felt shame for my things towards myself. So yeah, non-conclusive, just interesting.
Yeah, thank you. And also, what is interesting is what Connie said and Reem just shared is the way of communication. So when you are a facilitator, you need to understand that you are taking power away from your client if you're commenting on when he says something. You don't want to do that. You want to let them share and say what they want to say. You may want to ask a question, like when somebody shares something and say, where do you feel it? Because you want to go to the deeper layer of, the story, right? But you don't want to comment, oh, really? Oh, that sounds horrible. Or, whatever, any kind of these comments. And this is while we are together, we exercise this as well. This is what we active listening. And then you, as a facilitator, say, okay, and now it's time to stop talking, and now it's time to constellate. No? Yeah. So that was a good experience, and it's also good to, if you have felt uncomfortable with your partner in this exercise, not reacting to what you say. That's that's also a good sign. That's a sign that you can gain more. How can I put it? You can relax more into what you're saying and what you're doing, and own it more. You don't need to bounce it back off somebody. That's important. That gives you strength.
Well, I just think it's interesting that we are not used to being able to more or less have a monologue about how we feel, or you know what the exercise was. So we are constantly waiting for feedback, yeah, that we get allowance to do what we do or what we think, or you know, it's like, this is what I feel, and like I've a little bit similar to what Rosemary's, I have no shame. I am who I am, and if I screw up, I look at it and I can honestly say, yeah, my bad, or yes, that's what I did. And I just go along. But I think it's really interesting that everyone always needs feedback. You know, I've realized that people tell me something, and if I'm not responding, they can't handle it. And I'm just active listening. I'm just listening, and they can tell their story, but they want a feedback from me.
Thank you for sharing.
Very good, Maya.
Fantastic. So this was a exercise of many, many, many layers, which is great. And you surprise yourself with it. That's lovely. Okay, so we leave it here. We are totally on time today, which is magic as well. And I see you tomorrow. Do I see everyone tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a lovely
Thank
day,
you.
evening,
Thank
good
you very
night.
much.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.